Hi, hello. Today we're going to be talking about the 7-star Kommo-o raid, which should be happening this weekend. I'm recording this before the raid comes out, so you know what Kommo-o can do. And if you don't know, now you will know. This raid has a lot going on, or can have a lot going on, so it made preparing for this raid a little bit more tough than past raids, just because Kommo-o has a lot of moves. So we'll go through it. Worst case scenario, worst case scenario. You'll still learn something about Kommo-o. And if you like to prep to do the raid right when it drops, you'll have some Pokemon to use. Disclosure, I think that once we get Kommo-o's final moveset, it will be much easier to narrow down what would be good and what wouldn't be good. But I am confident the 4 Pokemon we built should be good no matter what. Will they be perfect? No, because there's just too much coverage that Kommo-o has. So, will they be good enough? Yes, of course. Will they be perfect? No. Once the raid comes out, we could probably pick maybe slightly better Pokemon, but some people just want to get the raid done right when it drops and then move on. But yeah, I'm really happy with what we built, so that should work just fine this weekend. Let's start with Kommo-o stats. It is a mixed attacker. 110 special, regular attack, 100 special attack, and has really good defense. It just has a really good stat distribution altogether. Its weakest stat is HP, which doesn't even matter for a 7-star raid because Game Freak can give however much HP they want to a raid boss. And it has a couple like signature moves that we'll talk about. 3 abilities. I know sometimes 7-star raid bosses don't have their hidden ability. I think Overcoat would be the weakest hidden ability it would have. So if it does have Overcoat, the raid becomes easier. Although Bulletproof and Soundproof are not that, much of an issue. If it has Bulletproof, it makes, probably Acid Spray is the only move that would matter out of all these. So Bulletproof would block all of these moves. And Acid Spray is the only one that really matters here. And even so, it's, not that big of a deal. There's plenty of workarounds for Acid Spray. What I should say is we don't need to rely on Acid Spray. It's always very helpful for 7-star raids to have Acid Spray, but it doesn't make or break our choices. And then Soundproof. I guess it would block Snarl, but it's more likely to be a physical attacker. Yeah, these are the moves. I don't think anything is super great here. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Noble Roar. If it has one of these 2 abilities, these would be the moves we would be concerned about, but I don't think any of the Pokemon I built rely on any of these moves, so it doesn't actually matter. The only one would maybe be Acid Spray for one Pokemon that we built. It will be pure fighting type, which means that it loses its Dragon weakness, so it's no longer 4 times weak to Fairy, but it will still have Dragon Stab, same type attack bonus, so its Dragon moves will still hit really hard. Speaking of moves, it gets a lot, which makes prepping for this raid really difficult. Where's my moves? Here we go. On the attack side, I try to grab the strongest moves, because if we can survive close combat, we can survive Brick Break, right? So those are the moves I calculate. I try to calculate the strongest ones because we can survive everything underneath it. So we have close combat, which would be Terra boosted and Stab boosted, Outrage, Throat Chop, so that it's Dark type coverage, X Scissor, Bug type coverage, Thunder Punch, Body Press, which is calculates differently than close combat. Fire Punch. It gets Thunder Punch, Ice Punch, and Fire Punch. It gets Aerial Ace. It gets Earthquake. And it seems like every 7-star raid boss gets Earthquake. It gets Shadow Claw, so it has Ghost coverage. It gets Poison Jab. It gets Rock Slide. It gets Iron Head. Now, of course, you're probably thinking Fairy Pokemon would be good off the bat, which, yes, but it does have Iron Head and it does have Poison Jab. I do expect it to have either Iron Head or on the special attack side, Flash Cannon. I just don't see... I guess if they're worried about difficulty for 7 stars, I guess the easiest thing they could do is just not give it a steel type move, and then a Fairy Pokemon can just run free. I guess if you're maybe wanting to think Azumarill, you have to worry about Thunder Punch. Maybe that's the only thing there on that end, since Water and Fairy cancel out the weakness to Steel. On the special side, it gets Boom Burst, it gets Clanging Scales, which is I don't know if it's a signature move off the top of my head. This is ultimately Dragon Close Combat. And it hits very, very hard, and it will probably have this move. Like I said, it's a mixed attacker, so that might be its only special attack it ends up having. It also can get Aura Sphere. It gets Flamethrower, Flash Cannon, like I said, Iron Head and Flash Cannon. So it has steel coverage on both special and physical. This, again, makes it really hard to build fairies because, for example, Sylveon is really good in special defense. So if it has Flash Cannon, that's not nearly doing as much damage as it does Iron Head because Sylveon's physical defense is not nearly as good as its special defense. So, like, Sylveon would be easier to recommend if it had Flash Cannon. Sylveon's harder to recommend if it has Iron Head. So that's, again, kind of why it's a little hard to decide what to do because of this split. It also gets Focus Blast, which misses all the time, so that doesn't really matter. Move-wise, it gets Bulk Up, Dragon Dance, Swords Dance, Iron Defense, Metal Sound, Clangorous Soul, which is another signature here. Let's talk about Clangorous Soul real quick because I do actually expect that. Again, if they wanted to make this raid really easy, they wouldn't give it Clangorous Soul, but I don't know why it wouldn't. What it does is it raises all the stats by 1 and it loses HP. Like I said earlier, a raid boss losing HP isn't that big of a deal because Game Freak can give it as much HP as they want. So they can just give it more HP knowing that it will Clangorous Soul and raise its stats. Now, we've seen raid bosses do things on what is called Turn 0. Turn 0 is when the raid boss does something before your team can do anything. So for like Cinderace, it bulked up on turn 0, meaning it was +1 attack and +1 defense right before you could even do anything. And we saw this with like Samurott. Samurott used Focus Energy on turn 0, so there was no way to stop it from using Focus Energy, and Focus Energy lasted the whole raid, and there was no way to clear it. So there are quite a few Pokemon that will do something on turn 0 where we have no way of stopping it. I think it would be really cool if it Clangorous Souled on turn 0. Like, if they want it to be really hard. I don't think it would make it really hard. It would just mean you would have to set up prior. But I would expect it to use this at least once, which would increase all its stats by 1. And like I said, going back to it being a mixed attacker, it makes the special attacks and the physical attacks we just talked about hit a lot harder, which makes building Pokemon a little bit more tricky. Speaking of building Pokemon, let's talk about the 4 we built. 4 Pokemon here, and they work together in pairs. So let's start off with Screamtail. I'm going to say right now, I think Screamtail is safe no matter what moveset Kommo-o ends up having. This is probably the safest one you can build, but it is support only. So 1 Screamtail is more than enough. 2 Screamtails probably not great for the raid team. And if you're playing with other people, you are purely support. Your moveset is going to be Helping Hand, Misty Terrain, Light Screen, and Reflect. And you're going to be holding the Light Clay, so Light Screen and Reflect last long. Now, if for some reason they go purely physical, you don't need Light Screen. If Kommo-o for some reason has Brick Break, that's not great either, but Screamtail can learn a bunch of other moves instead. But obviously, the bread and butter here is going to be setting screens, but Kommo-o does get Brick Break, so that kind of ruins that. Still helpful, though, if it doesn't get screens. So you get Helping Hand to boost the power of your teammates. You get Misty Terrain, which reduces Dragon-type damage. So if you do have a Pokemon that isn't Fairy, because you're worried about Iron Head or whatnot, Misty Terrain reduces that Dragon-type damage. Misty Terrain does not boost Fairy damage. I know Grassy Terrain boosts Grass, Electric Terrain boosts Electric. Misty Terrain only reduces Dragon damage. It does not boost Fairy damage. Doesn't make it stronger. Misty Terrain will shut down Paralysis or Sleep or Poison or Burn. So if you are going to use Misty Terrain, you can no longer Will-O-Wisp. You can no longer like Body Slam to fish for Paralysis. It shuts down all of that stuff. What you can also do, like I said, if it doesn't have any special attacks and you don't need Light Screen anymore, you can give Screamtail, you can give it Howl. Howl to boost any physical attackers to your team so they do more damage. That's really great. You can also give Screamtail like a move like Rock Tomb to just slow Kommo-o down. Kommo-o's speed is 85, and a lot of these Pokemon that we have here are a little bit slower, so even using 1 or 2 Rock Tombs will slow it down so you just outspeed it. Otherwise, you're pretty much going to set up your screens, you're going to set up your Misty Terrain, you're going to Helping Hand your teammates, and then you're probably going to heal Cheer. So it's all support. You do not, I know mine is Dark Terra. You will never need to Terra this because you're not doing any damage. So you want the Fairy Psychic resistances. No need to Terra. Impish Nature. And then you're going to do 252 HP, 212 defense, 44 special defense. I think the 44 special defense turns Flash Cannon from a 4-hit KO to a 5-hit KO. I believe that's what it was when I was calcing it. So yeah, Screamtail's full support. Ability doesn't really matter. Your Terra type doesn't matter. But yeah, it does get a lot of support moves, so you don't have to do the 6 I just suggested. Pretty easy to play off the bat. So Screamtail actually, I'm going to skip this one for now. Screamtail actually works really good with Weirdeer. Now, Weirdeer will be holding the Shell Bell, and it will be Psychic type Terra, and it will come in with an Intimidate. If Kommo-o Clangorous Souls on turn 0, at least that cancels out that physical attack. The cool thing about Weirdeer is when it uses Psy Shield Bash, its defense will go up. And so every time its defense will get stronger, but you also have the ability to lunge to lower Kommo-o's physical attack as well. Weirdeer gets Reflect if there's no Screamtail on your team. And then Weirdeer also gets Throat Chop. Throat Chop will stop both Clangorous Soul if it decides to use it mid-match. It will also stop Clanging Scales, which is that dragon-type close combat I talked about. So you could Throat Chop, Shield Bash, Throat Chop, Shield Bash, and then your whole team would be protected from Clangorous Scales and Clangorous Soul, ideally, if that works as it should work. If for some reason you die, which would be bad for the team, you at least come back in with Intimidate. But you get the defense boost every time you use Psy Shield Bash, and then if you have a Screamtail who has Howl, Howl can make then Psy Shield Bash stronger for you as you also increase your defense. So I think behind a Reflect with one Psy Shield Bash, I think almost every move becomes close to a 7-hit KO. And then once you remove your normal type, you will take less damage from the fighting type move. So once you Terrasilize, you'll be able to get there. So ideally, somebody else will set Reflect for you, and then you can just use like Psy Shield Bash, Lunge, Psy Shield Bash, and now you can Terrasilize and remove that normal type. Of course, be really careful when you remove your normal type, because when you die, or if you die, you don't get to Terrasilize again. So just don't Terrasilize if you're going to die, because you don't want to die, because then you can't Terrasilize again. So don't do that. Like I said, these choices are based off of all of those moves we did, so it made it really hard to narrow down the other Pokemon. So anyways, if you and Grandma are playing together, she might want to play Screamtail, you might want to play Weirdeer. 2 Weirdeers actually work kind of great together, because then you get the double Intimidate off the bat, and then you get the double Psy Shield Bash. So I think that should work okay, ideally. It's fine. Weirdeer is a cool Pokemon, I think. Let's talk about Galarian Wheezing. It does really, really well here, except if it has Earthquake. So if you're paying attention, if it has Earthquake, you want Levitate no matter what. If it doesn't have Earthquake, then you can switch this to Misty Surge, which automatically puts down the Misty Terrain. If it has Bulletproof, you can't Acid Spray. But the main thing you really want here is Clear Smog. We want a Pokemon with Clear Smog to remove the Clangorous Soul if it does Clangorous Soul on turn 0. If it does have Bulletproof, is it Bulletproof? It's Bulletproof, right? If it has Bulletproof, you won't be able to Acid Spray. There are other moves you can teach Galarian Wheezing, like you can just give it Misty Terrain. If also you don't want to miss Strange Steam, you can give it Dazzling Gleam instead. You have Taunt to ideally prevent a Swords Dance or an Iron Defense if they have it. Taunt does not work when the Raid Shield is up, so keep that in mind. Oh, also going back to Weirdeer real quick, I'm just making sure you're paying attention. It can also learn Light Screen, and it can also learn Leer if you want to lower the defense and you have a lot of physical attackers, like maybe you have a Azumarill standing next to you. One Leer would help you do more damage, it would help the Azumarill do more damage. So there's a couple moves that Weirdeer can also learn. I didn't tell you what Weirdeer's EVs were because I was making sure you were paying attention. It's 252 HP, 196 attack, and 60 in defense. The 60 in defense turns I don't remember off the top of my head because I did these calcs on Monday, turns a 4-hit KO move into a 5-hit KO move before your Psy Shield Bash goes in effect, I believe, if I remember. These EVs were calculated for a reason. Sometimes I don't always remember why I do it. But just making sure you're paying attention. 252 HP, 196 attack, 60 defense. So anyways, and then the Wheezing EVs are 252 HP, 176 defense, and 80 special attack. If you built a Wheezing for Meowscarada when the Meowscarada raids were happening, it is the same exact EV spread, bold nature, same thing for Wheezing. Now, normally I put Will-O-Wisp on Wheezing so you can burn the raid boss, but Will-O-Wisp will not work when Misty Terrain is up because it blocks it. Like I said, Levitate if it has Earthquake. If it doesn't have Earthquake, you can just safely switch that to Misty Terrain instead. Just so you set the Misty Terrain off right away for your entire team. And then our last Pokemon, which works well with Wheezing, because of the Acid Spray, ideally if that works, is Mew. And I totally forgot until right now to change Mew's moves. So I'm going to do that real quick. Okay, I fixed the moves. Mew is going to be 252 HP, 72 defense, 184 special attack, holding the Shell Bell, modest nature. It only gets one ability. You should have a Mew if you did the 7-star Mewtwo because they gave everyone a Mew for free. So I know it's a mythical Pokemon, but you should be able to have it. Psychic obviously does super effective damage. Make sure to PP max that. Chilling Water to control the attack. And then Mew actually gets access to Coaching. So Coaching will boost the attack and defense of your ally Pokemon. So because we expect Kommo-o to have more physical attacks and special attacks, it gives those Pokemon a defense boost and an attack boost. So this would work really well for all Pokemon, but specifically for Weirdeer. Weirdeer will be able to do more damage with Coaching, but even giving your teammates just a +1 in defense is really good. Chilling Water to control the attack and to build Terra. And then Nasty Plot. So Nasty Plot will let you do more damage, obviously. It's just like Swords Dance, but it'll work for your special attack. If Kommo-o does not have Bulletproof, I would switch Nasty Plot for Acid Spray, because Acid Spray is ultimately doing the same thing, except you'll build Terra with it. So like if you do 3 Nasty Plots, you still have to do 3 attacks to then Terrasilize. Whereas if you do 3 Acid Sprays, not only is that going to be this equivalent to the same amount of damage, but you'll also be able to Terrasilize, and also your teammates who are special attackers will do more damage. So Nasty Plot is here to, again, make sure you're paying attention. If it has Bulletproof, keep Nasty Plot. If it doesn't have Bulletproof, switch that to Acid Spray. Mew can also get access to Reflect, but we already talked about 2 Reflectors, and then Mew also gets access to Life Dew. But I do maybe think in this situation, Coaching might be a little bit better than Life Dew, because you still have, you can coach and then you can still have like 3 heal cheers afterwards. And Screamtail should be like healing anyways if there's a Screamtail. All 4 of these should work really well together. Otherwise, like Mew and Weirdeer should work really well together, or Galarian Wheezing and Mew should work really well together, or Screamtail and Weirdeer should work really well together. So that's how I built these for this raid. If you do need help with this raid, if it ends up being harder than I've talked about, please come over to the Twitch streams. We'll be streaming on Thursday when the raid drops, and I'll be able to help you out. If there's any changes, we'll make the changes. If there's a Pokemon that ends up being better, I will suggest that Pokemon. But like I said at the start of the video, I know that some people like to have some Pokemon prepared right at like 7 o'clock Central Time when these raids go live, so they can try to do it, and that feels really good. So that's always what my videos are trying to do. And, you know, if there's a Pokemon that doesn't work, the takeaway at least is you learn something about one of the 4 Pokemon I've talked about, and or you've learned something about the raid boss that I've talked about. So maybe you didn't know how Throat Chop would block Clangorous Soul, or maybe you didn't know that, like, Bulletproof stops Acid Spray or something of the sort. So hopefully you learned something. Thank you for watching. Feel free to join the Discord if you can't make it to stream. People in the Discord will be able to help you out this weekend as well. And if you can't get it this weekend, it will come back the following weekend. So thank you so much for watching. I hope that this was helpful. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff for interaction. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.